Hi, I think it's live. Um, so, yesterday I had a quick chat about creativity, and I got asked a really good question about inspiration, and it just set me off on a train of thought all day about what inspiration was, and actually inspired the post I just wrote about what inspired me last year. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm just going to have a quick chat about inspiration, really quick. So, and I'm just trying to talk about what inspires me and from the point of view of painting. So maybe your creative journey or your creative interests are something else. But what inspires me is, first of all, looking at other people's art, particularly if you can look at art in real life, which at the moment is, it's going to happen again in a few weeks' time. There's something amazing about looking at art in a gallery or in a museum. And I remember when I was 19, I lived in Paris for a year. I was studying French, and I went to a retrospective of Matisse, Henri Matisse, in the Pompidou Centre. And I loved it. I loved all the colour, all the shapes, so me. But there was one room, and it was Dance 1 and Dance 2, and I had seen them in reproduction. But when I saw them in real life, they're absolutely huge. They're, the size of each painting is the size of a wall. And they were both together, and I could sit down and look at them, and I sat there for a few hours looking at them, and there was something so moving about seeing them in person and seeing them in real life, because they, sorry, just coming in the door there, just lost my train of thought. When I went up close, I could see Henri Matisse, I could see his pencil marks, and things that don't come out in a reproduction. And I just found it incredibly moving to see how it was made or the story behind it. And the other thing that really moved me is that they were painted together over the same time. They were in the same body of work, but one of them I could see in the sign, because I was analysing everything. One of them was in St. Petersburg and the other was in New York, I think, and they were in two different places, but they were together for this retrospective, and I just found that amazing and very inspiring. So that's one thing that inspires me, looking at art. So even if it's looking at art on Instagram, I find amazing as well, or Pinterest, wherever you find it. But certainly looking at it or art books also are wonderful, particularly for artists that I don't have access to in Ireland, in Cork. I invested in some art books. So looking at art, number one. Then for me, going for walks. If I'm feeling creatively blocked, getting outside into nature, and walking. There's something about walking. I think the pace of walking, it seems to trigger, our memories, or it's just a certain pace. And I find ideas will come to me, or words, or I'll notice things, and it all permeates inside there. And the other thing is music. Music is so powerful. When I'm working on paintings, and if I have limited time and I stop and I want to pick up again, I'll often play the same music. And it just seems to connect me. It's like a shorthand into a different part of me. It connects me back to what I was thinking, what I was feeling. And you know yourself, when you listen to music, you listen to a song, and it brings you right back to where you heard it. It triggers, music connects us to some other part of us, and that is really helpful for being creative. So looking at art, listening to music, walking, and then anything, I suppose, that inspires you, like maybe it could be poetry, it could be fiction, it could be a movie, kind of those daydreams, whatever it is that is your thing, or your area of interest. And then lastly, what doesn't inspire me or what blocks me is, I suppose, too many words. So I would describe that as listening to the news, listening to talk radio too much. And that's what I wrote about earlier, actually, that this time last year, I was quite blocked when we all went into lockdown, and I couldn't paint. I had a solo exhibition, and it was locked down. I was devastated, and I just was like, what's the point? What's the point? And what's the point of art? And what's the point of all these paintings? Nobody can see them. And I didn't paint for months. And if I stop painting at all, I find it really hard to start again. And I remember consciously deciding, I was listening to the radio all the time, and I was watching, the numbers, the COVID numbers, obsessively. And that made me really anxious, really stressed, and completely blocked my creativity. So I think that's the other thing for me I've learned is when I walk, I don't listen to the radio, and I try and limit the amount of radio I listen to in the car. Or if I'm driving, I try and listen to music or podcasts, or sometimes just nothing at all, just to be silent, and thoughts will bubble up. And then the last thing that can block you is if you show your work, because your work is so, I suppose you're so vulnerable when you create work. If you show it to somebody who's overtly critical, it's such a kicker, and that can really block you. Somebody can make I remember somebody saying to me about that last solo exhibition I had, "What's with all the pink?" And I was just, I don't know, I was floored by that comment. And there were all these pink paintings, and I hadn't really thought about it, but it was just the tone of voice. It was like, what's with that? And it really, really, I suppose, upset me. It hurt me. So I think anybody who's very critical, I mean, you can have good critique with art, but kind of someone who's critical for the sake of being critical, it just don't show them your work. And so that's it. That's really it. Looking at art, reading about art, going for walks, going into nature, avoiding news, anything that makes you anxious, listening to music, certainly playing music in the studio. Sometimes I like to be silent, but sometimes I find when I'm working on paintings, I listen to the same playlist or the same album on repeat, and it just gets me right back into that zone. And lastly, the other thing is sometimes we don't feel inspired. I often come up here and I don't feel inspired, but by starting doing something. So some people it's tidying their studio. For me, it's mixing paint, something about colour, and then I get a notion. Like I was working on this one earlier, the bottom one here, you can see it, and I just got a notion, green. These two actually I worked on together. I just need to put green in there. So I think it's just to go with that, for me, just go with that intuition. I just started putting on green, and then this painting, the green kind of stayed, and then the other one, the green disappeared, and it's all layered with other things underneath it. And I'm quite happy with this one, how this one is working out. But it might change again. So I think it's just, if you just get any hint of feeling at all like that, go with that. This is so lovely to hear you speaking so honestly. Art is like our babies. Agree about avoiding the news, protecting our creative energy. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And it's hard to do because news can be addictive. And I also muted WhatsApp because I found there was too many memes and notifications, and I just had to really limit it all because it was just all in my head, and I need to keep that space for me to, like, I suppose, tune into what's inspiring me so that I can paint. So that's really it. I hope that's helpful, and because I just didn't think I answered this question really well last night. I loved all the feedback. Thank you so much. It's quite, I get scared every time I go live. It's quite nerve-wracking, but I love the feedback, and I love all the lovely DMs I got from all of you about how about your creative journey and how helps hearing about somebody else's. So that's why I'm doing it. I think if it helps any of you, that's great. And if you have anything else you want me to discuss, just message me and give me some ideas. I'm off to paint. I told you this would be really quick. So that's it. Any other questions? No. Bye everyone. I hope, I'll write it down as well. I hope it makes sense. So that's really it. They're very silly really, but it took me a while to figure it out myself. Bye.